Hey everybody, this is the Rob Liefeld Show. My name is Rob Liefeld, and in case you're looking and you're going, who's this guy? Well, I don't know who this guy is. Who is that guy? I get that all the time. Who I am is a guy who's been making, producing, distributing, right into the mic here, writing, distributing, drawing, publishing comic books over 5 decades, 80s, 90s, 2000s, 2010s, 2020s. You gotta understand here. I freaking love making comics. And comics has been a part of my life for as long as I can possibly imagine. 7 years old, grabbing them off spinner racks, just like the one behind me, at all different haunts. Biannually now, I revisit those haunts. I go in, I grab those comics, I dig those comics. I love being part of those memories of when I grabbed those comics, what was going on in my life when I grabbed those comics. And we talk about all things comic book related. When I was grabbing comic books off the spinner rack when I was 7 years old, they were not getting booked in all the major cineplexes and all the big theaters with big giant, IMAX components and $200 million budgets. It was a different time. We were lucky if Lou Ferrigno, the actor who portrayed the Hulk, would Hulk out for 5 minutes total in any episode of The Incredible Hulk. It was a different time. The people from my time period will tell you, like that's what we judge all this stuff against. That's what we always will. And we always will, because it's just rich. It's rich in our minds. So when we're here, when we're talking, I am trying to pull from experiences I've had in 40 years, 5 decades. And the reason I bring that up all the time, and I love giving you the decades and giving you the time, is because I'm just so thankful to have longevity. Longevity in any career, I think, is a tremendous accomplishment. And I have been doing this for a long time. And I started this as a podcast, and now you're watching me on YouTube because for 4 years I resisted. Rob, you have to be on camera. Everything's going video. Oh, and then finally you said you wanted this, and here I am. It's going to take some getting used to. I really don't enjoy it, but I love talking comics. Today we are going to talk about when Archie and the Riverdale gang were co-opted by the evangelical Christian movement, and there were Archie Christian comics, and at the time they were some of the best selling Archie comics, and they were published by a different label called Spire. But they were Archie, the whole gang, Jughead. They were Christians. They had Christian values. They had Christian morals. DC Comics was making giant graphic novels about the Bible, featuring no less a talent than the incredible Joe Kubert. They hardcovered this a couple years ago, but it used to be a Treasury edition, just like all the Treasury editions that I grew up with. But I prefer this hardcover. Look at that. What a bad... Moses is not in here, but boy, they duped it. Kids like us, we look, Moses was my first badass guy with the staff, okay? Maybe yours was Gandalf, but before Gandalf, I loved my badass old man who has a giant staff, who beats down marauders, thieves, okay? And if that badass old man happens to be Charlton Heston in the 10 Commandments, and I'm watching that every holiday season with my parents. I still do. When it's on Passover, Easter Sunday, Saturday, the Saturday before, I watch it with the commercials, like an insane person. I have it on DVD, but I'll watch it. There is no more badass old man with the staff. Before Gandalf, and then when I first saw Star Wars, I got Charlton Heston, Moses vibes from Sir Alec Guinness's portrayal as Obi-Wan. Love old men with staffs, okay? Moses might edge out Gandalf for me, okay? Just slightly. And there are times all throughout the 10 Commandments, again, the marauders come in and try and steal from Moses' future wife and his sister and her sisters, and he uses the staff and bats them back and swings at it. The all-purpose staff. Staffs are possibly one of the greatest weapons in fiction or nonfiction. So anyway, Joe Kubert crushes it. It's basically Genesis. Okay, it's Genesis. And later I'm going to show you the R. Crumb, the underground artist. About 15 years ago, he did a panel for panel recreation of the book of Genesis. And I often talk about the Bible being the most violent, the most kind of sexually powered comic that we give kids. Not comic, book that we give kids. And it is. So I recently did a podcast with a gentleman named Sean McDowell, and he is a theologian, he is an instructor, a pastor, wears a lot of the different hats. Really like him, really nice guy, had a great sit down. We talked for about 90 minutes. And when it was over, I just was flooded with all the memories of the Christian comic books that when I was a kid. I showed a couple of them during the sit down, the podcast that I had with Sean, because one of them, it's now called the Picture Bible. I see their marketing is the Picture Bible. They've compiled it, but when I encountered it before it was a hardcover, it was like little mini digests that they cut up, probably 8 to 9 different editions, and we sold them in our church bookstore. A lot of my entry level into these Christian comic books were from my church bookstore. Our church, my dad and his father-in-law, who were the pastors of the church that I attended growing up, it was their church. It was our family church. We were in the church business. We had a really good Bible bookstore. It did a lot of commerce. It was always packed between services. There was candy, there was certs, there was mints. There wasn't a whole candy rack and there wasn't a bag of chips, but there was candy at the counter, and there was greeting cards, and there was different novels. But then there was a spinner rack like this with Christian comics, and then there were shelves with these tracts, and we're going to get into those tracts, because those tracts, they were chicks. They were produced by chicks gospel tracts, and they are more violent than a Tim Vigil issue of Grips, if you know what I'm talking about, okay? Or Faust. I mean, they're violent. These are violent tracks. They show people burning in the river of hell, okay? In the river Styx, on fire, screaming. And as a kid, you're like, wow, these people are burning in hell. This guy, and it's named after this guy, Chick. We're going to talk about it. But super more violent than any Marvel comic I was getting. No, Spider-Man did not stand on a cliff next to an angel and look down on people who were being burned. I mean, we're talking. It was grim. This is grim stuff. But I dug it, man. I'm like, wow. Instead of listening to the adult message that I have to sit in the pew and listen to, and if I'm not busy drawing in the hymnals, I can flip through these chick tracks, which were like 25 cents. So I had like every one that they had ever produced, because I think that at the time there was like 30 or 40 of them. And I'm going to get to the fact that you can go check. They are online right now. You can go check these out. Okay. I did a deep dive before I did this, because following up on that interview that I did, I really thought about that period in the 70s where, again, as I said, Archie and the Riverdale gang are in numerous Christian comics. And they're talking about evangelical witnessing, all this stuff on the covers of the comics. Now, Archie licensed it to Spire, this publishing house called Spire, and Spire pacted with Archie, but Archie produced and printed the comics. So it was kind of like, Archie got paid, man. Archie was getting paid to dip their toe into the Christian evangelical realm. And they were also available in our church bookstore alongside the chick tracts and then this illustrated Bible stuff, which is now marketed as the Picture Bible. It's got Moses with his testaments above him. It's great. That guy is a fantastic illustrator. We're going to talk a little more about him later. DC Comics is doing this giant treasury edition with one of the most talented individuals on planet Earth. And look, a lot of you grew up exposed to this stuff. Some of you I've met many of you in the business. You're Catholic, you're Mormon, okay? Some of you I met are Jehovah's Witnesses. Whatever my denomination as Christian kid growing up in Baptist, ministry, We all, the more I meet and talk to so many of you across the United States of America over this many, decaded career, we've all got very similar upbringings. And I'm not going to throw out everybody who's shared their faith story, and this is the cool part, only in comics am I going to meet a bunch of atheists, and agnostics, people who do not acknowledge, believe, and become friends with them. Because that's what we're meant to do. We're meant to love each other, understand each other, interact with each other. And, the group, the people, my parents weren't the most judgmental people, but certainly some of their friends, woo, super judgy. And even doing this, podcast, this sit down that I did with Sean got people. I mean, I may tell you that some of my family members were laughing about some of the stuff, but you know, I'm not going to tell you that Deadpool isn't a point of contention without my extended, outside of my extended family. Those who do not have senses of humor don't understand it, don't get it, and it's not intended. Deadpool was not intended to be an expression of evangelism. Deadpool was intended to be entertaining as an extension of my talents. Okay. The Christian comic book movement was crazy, and by the time we get to the R. Crumb stuff, the Book of Genesis, and I have all sorts of thoughts as to why Crumb did what he did when he did, because he knew it would be like it would be controversial, and he leaned into it. All the interviews that he did at the time, whether it was the LA Times, the New York Times, whomever he spoke with, he talked about the fact that, look, I'm an underground artist. I drew, and he drew sex comics and drug comic books. He was the king, the pioneer of the underground comic movement, which were R and X-rated comic books. So then this guy is like, I am going to draw every single panel of the Book of Genesis as it is detailed. Well, there's a director named John Huston. He is one of the most acclaimed directors of his age and an absolute influence on everybody from Spielberg to Coppola. Okay, John Huston, look him up. And he had a very distinct voice. I'm John Huston. John Huston, I believe, he's a voice in one of those Hobbit cartoons that they made, Rankin Bass made in the late 70s, early 80s. But John Huston had a voice. It's very distinct. But he was also an accomplished movie director. And he directed, drumroll please, a movie called The Bible that came out in the early 70s. And it's racy. Its rendition of Sodom and Gomorrah is worth the price of admission alone. It is mesmerizing. It is when the angels are walking through Sodom and Gomorrah, which of course the story is the angels, if they can find, by the time they get there, like one person who is holy, they say we'll spare it. Okay. There is a scene in John Huston's The Bible where there is multiple, it's an orgy. You stumble into a biblical orgy. Okay. This was in theaters, and then it was shown on television, just like Moses, just like Ten Commandments, every year annually on CBS, on ABC. And there is, in the foreground are the angels, but in the back, in the middle ground is this kind of pyramid, like where you would do sacrifices. Like it's like a pyramid of it's like a pyramid of they are they are all grinding on each other. It's an orgy happening on these different levels on kind of this pyramid altar. That's the word I'm looking at. Like a series of staggered altar slabs, steps, but it looks like a pyramid. And people are all like, if I had my action figures, they're kind of bumping up and down, high knees in the air, stomach, they're doing their little orgy thing. Okay. And it's like, this is an acclaimed director trying to give you a legit, rendition, visualization of the debauchery going on in Sodom and Gomorrah. So Whether it's John Huston and his Bible movie, whether it's Charlton Heston, pop culture loves telling these stories. Recently, we talk about House of David. It was Amazon's #1 show when it dropped. It would bump Reacher. It was that popular, and it's you're going to see more of it because it was that ridiculously popular. Archie was doing Christian comics. The chick tracts were being published, and so here's the deal: when your dad is a Baptist minister, and you go into other cities, whether it's Albuquerque or somewhere in Phoenix, that we would go visit on vacations. Because, like I said, I've talked about this on different podcasts. The Liefelds did not fly on a pastor's salary. Paul Liefeld could not afford to fly us to vacations. They were fill up the car and drive, and we would drive as far as New Mexico to visit friends in Albuquerque, and then there was places we would visit in Arizona, and I always had comic books on those drives. But on the weekends, if we were overnight on a Sunday, and we would go to a church, and I would see other churches' Bible bookstores, and of course there were the Archie Christian Comics, there were the chick tracts, there were all manner of different, I don't want to call them religious, comic books, but comic books had become a method with which to reach people, and the evangelical community was utilizing them. And the Archie stuff was just it was crazy, because I'm like, wow, I know the Archies from cartoons and comics, but here they are interacting with us in this evangelical Christian world. And look, who's to blame Archie from, like, hey man, this is a revenue source, this company who wants to do this, because we've already got a very wholesome. Now, the funny part is, imagine the Christian CW doing an all, Spire adaptation, while KJ Apa and the rest were all portraying the Riverdale kids. Riverdale, the Spire years, when they're like, hey, do you want to go to church with me? Version of Archie and Betty and Veronica and Jughead. Because again, that's the kind of stuff that I was getting. And and then in the 90s, I don't know if you're aware of this, but Marvel did a Christian superhero called the Illuminator. The Illuminator, okay? So Christian comics have been lurking through every age since I broke into the business. And I was so fascinated, because what I preferred was Marvel comics, but I couldn't bring a Marvel comic into church. Okay, I couldn't bring a Justice League and Avengers and X-Men. Mom and Pop and everybody around me, the old lady who would pull in my ear from behind me. Man, I wish there was a version where I turned around and smacked her. Just come on, stop pulling on my ear all the time. Your grandfather wouldn't appreciate that. Would you leave me alone? I mean, literally I don't even think I knew this old lady, but she would pull on my ear hard because I was drawing either on the church bulletin or in the back of the blank pages of the hymnal. Like, give me a break. But I could buy an Archie comic, or I could buy a chick Christian track, and that would be fine. Better than Wolverine and Thor and Captain America. Okay. So this was a giant interaction, still the comic book medium, still sequential art, and did I think the Archie stuff was just very rudimentary? It was just very basic. But these chick tracks, some of them are ridiculously well illustrated. And I'm about to show you how incredibly violent they were. And they're like dark Christian Twilight Zones. It's kind of like, if you do this, this is where you're going to end up. They were clearly kind of basing these tracks and their stories around the Outer Limits and Twilight Zone style interactions with a different outcome or a dark twist at the end. And I'm gonna get a kick showing those to you. All right, so right here I called it up. I don't have copies of these, but you're gonna see this. This is Archie's One Way. Again, Spire Comics, but the Archie people produce these. See, you got a Christian bookstore right here, that fish, Christian books, and then the officer saying there's only one way, and she's like, the officer is witnessing to Archie. Okay, that's one example. There were so many. Here's another. Archie's Love Scene. If it says Spire on it, because there's a church steeple on the top of that spire. This is Archie's Love Scene. This is like a dating comic, but with Christian morals and values and how far you'll go. Okay, so this is the kind of stuff, like I'm telling you, that I was able to interact with as a kid. Oh baby, I'm gonna go get you. When I say that we give this to kids, this is the R crumb, and I mean this. Oh, I would love to own originals from this. They had a museum showcasing these, and they are stunning. So this is R. Crumb, the king of the underground comics, a hell of an illustrator. This is the back cover of his Genesis book that he was doing. Again, here is that's the Treasury edition of the Joe Kubert DC's The Bible, and then let the forces of darkness beware, the shining might of motorcycle helmet wearing, the Illuminator. Did you get this in the 90s? Christian Comics, baby. He had the power of God on his side, okay? One book you may not be aware that existed. I did this about 10 years ago. I based it on a screenplay that I had written, and I hired Matt Horak to draw from my screenplay, and we published the Covenant, and it is not without its gore and its blood and guts as well. The Covenant, written by Rob Liefeld, illustrated by Matt Horak. I did the covers. This was distributed by Image Comics. That falls into the House of David category, where I took a story in the Bible and I expanded on it. I built it out, and I made it something more dramatic. There are people who, like, I had somebody tell me, you shouldn't have said that you added to the Bible. The Ten Commandments with Charlton Heston, that we love, that we absolutely adore, that we recommend as Christians, has all manner of additions. That they expanded and created characters and situations. Just completely added to the Bible. House of David is adding to the Bible. They're not taking away and changing the messaging. They're just taking up time, maybe looking at certain motivations and trying to expand on some of those motivations, some of the consequences, some of the decisions made by the characters, and building them out. There was a King David miniseries in 1976 on ABC that I loved. It was my favorite rendition of David and Goliath up to that point. A lot of Bible on the television. CBS in the late 70s. They had their own Moses miniseries. It was a multi-night event. So the networks were spending millions of dollars. There was always a Jesus or a nativity movie, right? And then, of course, you've got the ultimate example of the Passion of the Cristo. Okay, the Passion of the Cristo. Mel Gibson's incredible Passion of the Christ, which leaned a lot into. It also expanded and gave points of views that I forgot the part in the Bible where the devil is stalking Jesus as he's getting, the cat of nine tails, and having his flesh rendered viciously off of his body by these sharp glass and metal jagged objects as they whip and torture him. The Covenant falls into that realm, but you haven't lived until I have shown you these chick tracts. And let me tell you something right now. This is the one. This Is Your Life was the one that scared the crap out of me, okay? This Is Your Life, a chick tract. Now, journey with me, if you will, as we just go here live, baby. We're just This Is Your Life. You can get these chick publications as a website, okay? And so they basically, dude is living his life, and he dies. The Grim Reaper comes and takes him, okay? He's living his life. Yeah. Whoa, hello. He's living his life. He's pimp. He's living a good life. He's smoking. He's drinking. He's got his sweet sports car, and then he's killed. The Reaper comes and takes him, and then at his funeral, they're like, he was a good man. Well, then his spirit arises. Okay, this is the kind of stuff I'm reading in church. This isn't the stuff with the great art. I'm going to get to that. The great art is coming. The stuff that looks like Tim Vigil drew it. And he's like, wait, judgment? What do you mean I'm being judged? And then they take him to his destination. We're taking you to your destination. And this naked dude's like, I simply refuse to believe this is happening to me. And he goes, look, I lived a good life. I lived a really good life. And he's like, well, we're going to check it out now. And they call his name. Next. And then, dude, God is sitting there on his throne. These are all the little people who come and then on a big movie screen, they're like, this is your life, okay? And your life is played out in front of you, and it's like, hey, there's me as a baby, and then it shows selfish tendencies, it shows pervy stuff. You're checking out girls from behind walls, obviously checking out this girl's form. You're telling dirty stories. This is the dirtiest story I've ever told, okay? And then all of these examples of all your flaws, all your sins are being outlaid in before you in this tract. And then at the end, it says, open the book of life. And it says, his name does not appear, Lord. And it says, depart from me, ye cursed. And it says, you're going into the everlasting fire. And they give him like the gateway to, you're going to go burn in hell now. See you, dude. And there he is. As he has now disappeared into the flames. Okay, that's his silhouetted form. Okay. And whoever was not found written in the book of life was cast into the lake of fire. Okay, when you're this could be your life, this says in the tract. And then it shows the point in his life where he could have turned things around. He could have repented. He could have accepted the Lord. And then at the end, it shows the alternative. Well done. Your name is, okay. So it gives you the alternative. That was like one of the earliest ones that I encountered. I'm like, damn, scare tactics, rapture films. A lot of, they call it early 80s, the satanic panic. And you could feel it, like the fear factor. We're going to scare you into believing. I said how my dad was like, you have to stop. In the interview that I did with Sean McDowell, I talk about how, and many people have said, I relate to that. Those rapture end times movies were scared. People were being guillotined. They showed people who would not renounce being led up and their heads were chopped off, and they would show it to you. This was rad. As a kid, like I said, they're like independent grindhouse movies. But here's the deal. Here's one of the good. Here's another one that is really well illustrated. The Contract. Okay, the Contract. You got to check this out. Look at the Contract. Look at the visual. The Contract. These are Christian tracts that were distributed to us. Look, I'm going to church through my teenage years. So if there was a new one, I'm still grabbing them because they were like an never-ending fountain. The Contract. Okay, this is grim. This is the Twilight Zone. Okay, Father, what's that noise? Okay, again, these are the chick tracts. And it's like, my crops are gone. I've been cursed, it says. Okay? And what are we going to do? Great rendering. This is really extremely well rendered. And then the banker says, well, the bank's going to own your farm in a few days. Like, you're screwed. Gives him the consequences. Well, then he's like, if I ever get the chance, I'll fix you for this. Okay, he's pissed. He's lit. But then just so happens some dude's walking outside where it's like, if I could sell my soul to save this farm, I would. Here comes dude. Bottom line, dude's like, here's the contract. And he tells him, if you sign this contract, I'm going to own your soul. Look at this guy. Good drawings. Really well drawn. Really well illustrated. And he says, you got to sign this in blood, not in this pen. Okay? And he's like, then he's overlooking the land, checking out the land, checking all that he's now going to own. Look at that. Really well drawn. If you don't think I'm sitting there really, and then suddenly he discovers riches on earth. This guy, after he's sold his soul to this devil. Okay. Well, later it shows, that he goes and he does it to his brother. he does it to his brother too. And then they're like, you sold your son to your farm to Beelzebub. Beelzebub is the name of the devil, okay? Well, on his deathbed, he confesses, I sold my farm to the devil for my soul. And the guy's like, that's not how it works, John. And so he's like, you can redeem yourself through Christ. And so then he does. And he says, I will turn away from my sins. I will redeem myself. Okay. And then he comes over and he says, I've got to share wonderful news for you. I turned the tables. I'm a Christian now. I'm no longer bound by that contract. So bottom line, on the way home, his brother, he's like, baloney. He couldn't have possibly gotten out of that contract. He's like, he couldn't have possibly gotten out of the contract. On his drive home, lightning hits a tree and this giant branch drops on him and it kills him. Okay. And he kills him. And then he ends up in hell with Mr. B. And Mr. B is like, this is your home now. This is where you live. This is where you're going to spend all eternity. And he's like, but the contract, I didn't have a contract with you. You can't possibly have my soul. Okay? Look at this is really maniacal. Okay? And he says, you fool, I don't need a contract. You didn't accept the Lord. That's the difference here. And, and he finds out my cousin John's going to be here, right? And he's like, nope, John slipped away into heaven. He was this close to being mine. So this is basically the contract, what could happen to you. And the illustrations were great. Again, illustrated graphic novel storytelling that I am receiving. And when I say these were everywhere, they were in churches wherever we went when we went out of state. And yet DC, I haven't cracked open this DC Bible, but you got actual books of the Bible being shared with you via the greats like John. I mean, good God, some of it's Kubert, some of it's Nestor Redondo, who's also incredible art by Joe Kubert and Nestor Redondo. I mean, guys, these are exceptional illustrations. This man is about to tell his family the stories of the Bible here. And so, Adam and Eve, this is just stunning. It's just stunning. The work and the illustrations are nothing less than just incredible. And I love the treasury size edition. I've never seen this at comic book size. Here's where they're purged from the garden. I mean, really great dramatic illustrations. Adam and Eve purged from the garden. So yeah, I'm DC's The Bible. They reprinted it, but a few years ago. Highly recommend. Just if you love illustrations, again, you don't have to believe this stuff to partake in it. I'm not sure. R. Crumb, I think he pretty much did not. He says the Bible was just a bunch of stories to me, but he still felt compelled to draw the book of Genesis in his R. Crumb style, painstakingly with all this incredible amount of detail. So the R. Crumb Genesis book, okay? And this thing is a doozy. This is a really nice, beautiful book. All 50 chapters, it says. The first book of the Bible graphically depicted. Nothing left out. What he's saying is the entire perv factor is here. Look. People don't understand the level of violence and what I will call debauchery contained. What the Bible is trying to show you is all the flawed people that are still redeemed, that still have a chance, okay? But they are flawed. They have affairs. They send men off to die. They are murderers. They are betrayers. There is incest. There's all manners of perversion. And when I say we give this to kids, I'm not going to read it to you, but this is signed Grandma, and it's to my son Luke, and I laughed out loud. Luke is my son. Grandma, okay, Grammy. Nice loving letter to her grandson, who was, I believe, 12 at the time. So when I tell people we give it, look, R. Crumb went for all of the debauchery here. I just randomly just I randomly opened to this page. You can see I'm hoping I cracked it open right in front of you. I didn't alter it in any way, shape, or form. This is what it opens to, okay? That scene right there. That scene right there, okay? And it says, and there was Isaac frolicking with Rebekah, his wife. He's grabbing her in a very aggressive manner, okay? That is not even the the long and the short of it, okay? There is all manner of of debauchery throughout this book, and R. Crumb, you get the idea. He had a really good time. He had a fun time, but they're just great illustrations. Regardless, I mean, this is just a standard page. I mean, he went to town, and his whole thing was, I'm going to simply illustrate this exactly as it is told. Now, as to the violence, I mean, you know, just violent imagery or grim imagery. I mean, the famine, the death of the cattle, the devastation of the crops. I mean, it is wonderfully. I'm not going to go out of my way and show you. I mean, some of the God talking to Abraham is some funny stuff in here. Is some really funny stuff. I tell you, this, okay. Our father is old, and there is no man on earth to come in bed with us. This is when Noah's Abraham and sent Lot out in the midst of the destruction, and Lot went up out of Zor. Okay, sorry. And so they laid down with their dad. Okay, so you got dad. Okay, so my mother-in-law, God bless her, handed this to my son, and it is illustrated in the manner that it is written. R. Crumb was like, I went from the texts, I drew what the text said, and I illustrated them. It's a great artistic endeavor. I'm really glad it exists. When I say they give it to kids, we were a little shocked when Grammy, as she called herself, gave this to my 12-year-old son. And I think my 12-year-old son's like, what's this? But I'm sure it was his to take to his room. I'm sure he laughed out loud at some of the pictures, just like any immature 12-year-old is going to laugh when they look at that stuff. Again, debauchery. But so that's from the 2000s. I never read Marvel's Illuminator. It didn't have. I've always talked about the fact that for the most part, as I get older, I follow talents, not characters. But it was cool to see. And Marvel also did an adaptation of one of my favorite books called Pilgrim's Progress, which is more of a Christian fable. And in the early 90s, they did an adaptation of Pilgrim's Progress. So Marvel was definitely getting into the evangelical game. People were paying them to distribute, to license, to create, and they were all in. They were all for it. But whether it was R. Crumb or Joe Kubert or some of these excellent illustrations in those Chicks, you can go to the Chick, Chick, website, and they've got all. You can look at. There's over 50 tracts, maybe more. There's 24 pages of tracts. What am I talking about? There's way more than 50. Some of them are like the This Is Your Life, more basic. Others are like that Contract, which, I mean, it's like some dude who clearly was into the horror kind of comic book craze and was bringing that same manner of renderings and illustration, really good illustrations. When you read about Chick publications, they are the most extreme and radical of the stuff that you're going to get. There were other, even some color comics, those there were some called Noah's Ark that they did some adaptations of books of the Bible. They did their own parables. There was the Knife and the Switchblade. There was a comic book that I had in my collection. There was one called Jesus. There was a Christian action adventure series by Spire Comics, the same ones that did the Christian Archies, called The Brothers. The Brothers. They were Christian. So, I loved comic books. So I was into all manner of comic books, and those were always going to be in my path on a Sunday morning when I was going, without a doubt, uh, obligated to be in church. Now I'm going to tell you something. Now, one of the, I think it was the Alpha Flight issue. Maybe it's X-Men 129 when Alpha Flight appears. I had bought that on the way to church with my dad. I'm probably, I'm definitely, I'm maybe 13 years old, 13, 12, 13. And I grabbed that. No, I made 11 or 12, but I bought it on the way there because I would go with my dad early because he would always make a stop and then I could hang out. Well, I didn't go into church. I stayed in the back of my dad's car reading that X-Men and re-looking at that X-Men back and forth for the entirety of the sermon. So, I mean, I had burned through all the Christian comics. This was the stuff that I just couldn't get out of my head. And I remember, ooh, boy, was I in trouble. My dad came out of church and said, do you think that I didn't notice that you were nowhere to be found? There was one center aisle, and then, if our church seated 400 people, that sounds right. That sounds right. It sat around 400 people in the church that we were in, maybe a little more. But from the stage, my dad could absolutely see if his son was in there and recognized I never made the trip in, and took the comic book, confiscated X-Men 129 for me for about a week. Thank God he didn't tear it up. I had enough of that. I had enough of my comic books being ruined by my mom and my dad. But I had eventually consumed as much of these as I possibly could. But there was a period, and I felt like it was a chance to shine a little more light on the whether it's evangelical notions like the chick tracts with their little Twilight Zone episodes, or the Archie stuff, or the other stuff that Spire Comics produced, and then later Marvel with the Illuminator, whether it's stuff like that, or the actual retelling of biblical stories like Joe Kubert, Nestor Redondo, R. Crumb, and others. That stuff is always going to be compelling because there's tons of badass heroes in the Bible. Elijah, Moses, Joshua, Gideon, Samson. There's just, I always as a kid was like, the Old Testament had a fantastical element to it. It had giants, it had sorcerers, it has witches. Oh, there are some of those chick tracts, like, all about getting away from sorcery. Don't try it, because the Dungeons and Dragons movement had started. And I'm sure if you are a kid of faith, or was raised in any manner of church, you were taught that playing Dungeons and Dragons was going to summon the devil. And so there was that kind of stuff that was looming over all of this. I just thought I would expand on comic books in the Bible, from the kids from Riverdale to some of the greats in the business having lended their names, to some of the more extreme stuff, like the stuff that I'm talking about in regards to these chick tracts, because I've said it about 50 times, but if you go to that website and you do a deep dive, you will be entertained. It will be a good hour's worth of your life, and you're like, I didn't know these, and the you didn't know these existed. The tract like This Is Your Life, or the one that is The Contract. Those are they all not a single chick tract doesn't slip somewhere into that very consequential, super judgmental, extreme point of view, the fear factor. And I am not here to endorse those chick tracts. I don't believe that was a path. I think when you scare somebody into it, it's probably not the best long-term, you're not going to get the best long-term results. I'm just telling you they exist. I'm not endorsing them. They are incredibly offensive on several levels, especially if you have friends in the other. I always get this wrong. The LGBTQ. I think I said it. I think I did it right. Community. If you have friends in that, they're terribly offensive, because they have extreme points of view. And as I said to Sean when I was talking to him, I'm here to love other people. That is the embodiment. And the consequences between what you believe and what you don't believe are going to play out in your life in a manner that I don't factor into. Many of you had been like, wow, I can't believe Rob is a believer. Did you not get that I was raised in the church? And as I said to Sean, I had umpteen opportunities to step away, but I believe that the faith that I have that's in me has uh, given me a toughness, has given me a resolve. It has given me a ton of purpose as well. And I have been, I think it's one of the reasons I have been able to rise above so much adversity that I have encountered in my career a very young uh, point when I grew when I broke in when I was 18 years old, and ever since, a lot of people, I turned down Doctor Strange when I felt a guy named Ralph Macchio called and offered me Doctor Strange, and they said they were going to reboot it and they were going to make it more like a television show that I grew up with called The Night Stalker, where the guy was investigating the occult. And I'm like, no, I don't want to do that. I want to do uh, Doctor Strange with Baron Mordo, with Nightmare, with Eternity, with Dormammu. That's the Doctor Strange. I want to do all the Ditko stuff. And here's the deal: the people in the church would have judged me for doing the Ditko stuff too, because that was magic. And in the evangelical communities, they were dissing on everything from Lord of the Rings to Harry Potter. Magic, magic, because magic is bad. Well, I don't believe in magic in the same way that people don't believe in God, Christianity, faith whatsoever. So I don't even believe in magic, but I believe it as a function of entertainment. So I wasn't doing it to save myself from being judged by others. They were going to judge me anyway. But I didn't want to do the occult version of Doctor Strange because that wasn't Doctor Strange to me. I wanted to do Doctor Strange with the classic Steve Ditko design created characters. That's the stuff that I was interested in. But look, I just wanted to shine a brighter light towards some of the stuff that was happening. I've been meaning to get to it on the podcast for a long time, but there was a late 70s, early 80s surge. Spire Comic Books was the number one publisher of like the broadest, most commercial of the Christian entertainment, as evidenced by utilizing the Archie catalog, the Riverdale kids. And clearly, I when I was reading up on this, they sold tremendously. These books did well for Spire, and they did extremely well for Archie, who not only licensed the characters but printed and published and distributed them, for Spire. But the Bible stuff is never too far, and it appeared and then retreated because maybe from a commercial standpoint, people do stuff that's good business in the business world. And I think there was a period that doing these kind of comic books and evangelical comics was a business that was working for people until it wasn't. And in the world that we exist today, who knows what is capable? I have always wondered. I've always wondered if there could be a successful line of Christian themed comics. And of course, I believe, based on stuff like House of David, or I don't know if you guys remember about 12, 13 years ago when NBC had that like 5-week special, The Bible, and it was by the guy who produced Survivor. I think it was the Burnett Productions. Those shows got like 20 million viewers every Sunday when they put them on. And trust me, there was then a resurgence of biblical themed stuff. And I'm wondering if we're going to see that now that House of David on Amazon has been just crushing it. Because take whether you believe or not, they are some fantastical stories. They are some incredible, fantastical stories. And I can see all manner of cool adaptations yet to come, yet to exist, better than any of the stuff. And I've shown you stuff that have been by some masterclass talents today. Talked about stuff by masterclass talents. So hey, the Bible, the comic books and the Bible, we covered kind of the apex period today. It's something that we hadn't covered before. I've done an entire dedicated episode to the R. Crumb Genesis book, giving you more of a background of who R. Crumb is, what he meant to the underground movement, to comic books period, and how influential and what kind of attention was given towards him when he did this. But the fact that I sat there, I watched my child was given this by his grandma, who I think got a kick out of it because there was a point where his grandma had adopted an atheistic stance. She gave this to Luke, my son, on the basis of the accomplishment of the art. She was so impressed by the artistic interpretations. Although R. Crumb said he didn't interpret anything, he literally just reflected in his drawings what he was reading from the scrolls, the passages, the scriptures. But I've seen them given to kids, and it's so R-rated. Okay, so hey, thank you as always for going down all of these many crazy different rabbit holes with me. I obviously, if it's a comic book, I have likely encountered it. And as far as like topical new stuff, we're going to go back and revisit now that we're in this video format. And please bear with me while I get used to it and where my eyes are supposed to look. I do really enjoy always talking comics and their impact on pop culture. And when that leads is right before I got up today. I encountered the brand new James Gunn Superman trailer. I cannot believe how much I love it. I believe this, as far as comic book movies, this is the one to beat. James Gunn has style. He has panache. He is a great shooter. He cast his movies great. Now that I have seen this, I believe we are on the cusp of one of the best Superman movie experiences. I am so excited. The still not quite certain why people can't tell that Clark Kent is Superman, but Lois Lane doing her mock Superman interview with Clark Kent was the great way to frame and shape this trailer. I think Crypto is just he's an obvious secret weapon. They're utilizing him already in dog care commercials for dog care products. Huge, brilliant. I'm all in. I think it looks fantastic. The special effects look amazing. I've told you many times, Superman is by far and away my favorite DC Comics character, and up there is one of my favorite characters in fiction, period. I got emotional watching it. It triggered me. I'm not going to say that I was on the cusp of crying, but I was on the cusp of crying. Okay, that really moved me. James Gunn's Superman looks like a winner, and I am so pumped to see it. Nicholas Hoult looks great as Lex Luthor. This looks like it is one of the most scaled up Superman movies that we are ever going to see. Again, to quote the creator of John Hammond, the was played by Sir Richard Attenborough, I believe. I hope I got that right. When John Hammond in Steven Spielberg's Jurassic Park says, "Spared no expense." Looks like Superman spared no expense. This movie looks like it's going to rock. Super excited, super thrilled. I hope it leads to a giant Superman renaissance, because no character deserves it more. He is one of, if not my most favorite of all time. So really thrilled. Thank you for hanging around, talking comics, talking about the medium. Anytime that I can, embrace a subject that is built around comic books and graphic novel representation, I'm going to do it. And I enjoy the fact that you were able to take this ride with me. We are going to keep posting. It looks like about 2 times a week. Post these up to YouTube. I didn't say it last time. I guess I'm supposed to say it. I've been wanting to say this for 20 years. Please like and subscribe. Wow. My very first, please like and subscribe. Okay. Follow the show. We're not going anywhere. Right before I celebrate 5 years of podcasting, I got into video podcasting. Here we are. And I am so thrilled that you took this ride with us and take it on a daily basis. I'm going to get back to reading your reviews. The comments were off the chain. You guys are so generous and kind and nice in a world that is not so very generous and kind and nice. And I appreciate the enthusiasm. I appreciate the support. When I'm not doing this, I'm on my social media accounts. I am on the platform known as X, formerly known as Twitter. I am at Robert Liefeld, RobertLiefeld. Blue check mark. Yes, that is really me you are speaking to. I'm reading your replies, your comments, your mentions, your DMs. Thank you for interacting with me on the social media accounts, because I just love the interconnectivity that we're able to achieve. It's so much fun. And over on Instagram, I'm at Rob Liefeld, ROBLIEFELD. I've got the blue check again, signifying that I am the legitimate article, the real deal, and that is me reading and reacting to your comments, your messages, and your mentions. Thank you for following me on Instagram. It is kind of like my verbal diary, my visual kind of life log, where I'm hanging, who I'm hanging with, where I'm eating, my wife, my kids, my friends. I'm going to try and give you previews of the work that I'm doing ahead of time. I'll give you guys the sneak peeks on Instagram. What's been dominating my life again, of course, is the Youngblood comics that I have been producing. And let me tell you something right now. You guys are both of these are sold out. These are sold out. The aftermarket is where these now live and breathe, because you guys keep buying them, you keep grabbing them, and you brought the patient all the way back to life. That was you. I'm so thankful that it is consuming all of my time. Youngblood 2, Giant Size X-Men. I'm sorry, celebrating Giant Size X-Men is Giant Size Youngblood. Got a whole bunch of stuff going on. Thank you. I use social media to promote it as best I can. We have a group on Facebook. It's called Rob Liefeld Marvel Extreme and Beyond. We would love for you to join us. My buddy Terry Sala, Sala, he or I will click you on through, get your post up and running, get your interaction happening as fast as possible. We have a great group. It's very positive. We do not allow trolls. Get out of here. We don't do that. We don't have the troll factor. The first person who tries to troll, we just show them the door. It's our bed, our living room. It's our game room that you're being invited to join and interact. Each and every one of these episodes gets its own dedicated post that you can discuss and put comments on. So Rob Liefeld, Marvel Extreme Beyond is the name of the Facebook group. I hope to see you and find you over there. If you've got your Whatnot app, follow me, Rob Liefeld. If you don't get the Whatnot app, follow me, Rob Liefeld. You'll get alerted when I go live, and I do special editions, variants. These have been primarily only available via interacting with me online. This was only available on my website, Rob Liefeld Creations, which I also need to share with you about. RobLiefeldCreations.com is where some of these comics live and breathe in their permanent state. But there are other variants and editions that we put on the live stream. I do all manner of different signings on the live stream. You get COAs on the live stream. I have original art on the live stream. This is Whatnot. Get the Whatnot app, follow it, download it. Look for Rob Liefeld, follow me. You'll be alerted when I go live with all of this crazy stuff. We do custom signatures. I sign Funko Pops, toys, back issues from my career, because like I said, I got a 40-year career of stuff that I love to share. Whatnot Con is coming up. You look for it. Look for us. We're going to be on this very next weekend during the Whatnot Con period, and I can't wait to interact with so many of you. I'm doing a store appearance, Fantastic Worlds in Scottsdale, Arizona, May 31st. I love Bill. It's a great store. I haven't been to Arizona in over 4.5 years. This is the only appearance. I don't get out much. I am mostly only live streaming. I don't go to, you can see everybody, all these lists of people. They go to Dallas, they go to Chicago, they go to New York, they go to Cincinnati, they go to Denver. I mean, they're going everywhere. I can't afford to. This takes time. I have to be home and making the comics. I'm writing the comics, penciling the comics, inking the comics. We're like a comic book production house here. I just can't find the time to get out. That's why the interconnectivity, whether it's on social or through the Whatnot, is so important. But when I get out and do a store appearance with somebody that I generally trust and like, and they have great reputation, in Fantastic Worlds is a killer comic store. I love it. I have got a exclusive. I don't have it in my hands yet, but they are getting their own, not this cover, their own cover that is only going to be available if you go to that appearance. We do these custom treatments so that you get a custom Fantastic Worlds cover. I did all new illustration. Of course, I'm going to look it up and show it to you right now, because why wouldn't I? Let's see, right here. I'll show it to you right now. Here we go. And we'll be there in just a second. And yes, I meant Rob Liefeld. And yes, I'm going to his website. Okay, here we go. And this is the Fantastic Four. This is the Fantastic Worlds. This is the Fantastic Worlds edition. So that is the comic book. That's the cover. That's only going to be, there's a diehard on the cover, custom cover only for Fantastic Worlds. And it's got to be picked up in person. Uh, but it gives you even more kind of a very low print run, but excited. Of course, yes, if you bring me your comics, I've already sent them the menu. I'll be happy to sign and participate, whether it's Youngblood, Snake Eyes, Captain America, Prophet, Evangeline, X-Force, Deadpool, whatever it is. So look forward to seeing you guys May 31st. It's a couple weeks now. Fantastic World, Scottsdale, Arizona. Check it out. Check out the times. Can't wait to see you there. We wrap up each and every show with me kind of slowing it down and asking you, telling you that your mental, physical, emotional, and spiritual well-being matter, and they should matter to you. And if you're feeling worn down, and if if the grind is getting to you, man, you got to get off the treadmill. Don't let that treadmill wear you down. Do not. We can't. Get out, have some great times with your family, your friends. Get coffee with that buddy you haven't seen in a bunch. Literally, just yesterday, my buddies who I have coffee with 4 times a year, once a quarter. Hey guys, we got to load it up. I get really excited that Saturday morning when I come back from breaking bread with them, from having breakfast and coffee. I am so excited. It is a great time. It is a great period. It fills me up, and I just feel like I can conquer the world because I've reconnected with my high school buddies. These are my buddies for plus 40 years, longer than my comic book career. Okay, 43-year friendships that I'm excited to interact with. Look up an old friend, go visit your kid, get on the phone. Whenever I get a phone call from my kid, again, I take time. I get so excited. My wife and I, we make time. We go out on dates. We go out, we grab coffee, we grab ice cream. We jump in my Jeep and we go up the corner, because I've covered on my podcast all manner. Maybe this is the case with you too. There's all manner of ice cream places now, and it's nuts. And we grab different offerings from all the different ice cream places, and just that drive, and just that journey and that trip, and going to the ice cream parlor and having an ice cream and hanging out and visiting with my wife. Sometimes we bring friends, sometimes we bring family. It just resets. It's that reset. Read a great comic book. Scare the pants out of you and read one of those chicks Christian tracts. Read a great comic. Go see that streaming show that you've been putting off, that great movie. Go to some good stuff's coming out. I'm so psyched for Mission Impossible. I can't even begin to tell you. I'm so psyched to see Superman. Plan a getaway, get a trip, take a couple hours off more. Whatever it takes to reset and get you off and get you back on track. Okay, chase your dreams. Don't be scared to chase your dreams. You're looking at an uneducated kid who chased his dream all the way into a 40-year career. Uneducated, didn't go beyond high school. I don't have a diploma. I'm technically not an educated person. I'll be the only person in my family who doesn't have higher education at some point, and it's already happening. But I didn't let anything discourage me. Get up, decide it's going to be a great day, make that day great. And if you want it to be a great day, you can make it a great day. Stay the course, stay on track. Wishing you all the very best. And the world is crazy. But my wife and I, we're trying to stay off the social media news feeds and just news in general more often than not, because it can be such a complete drag. So do for you, make time for you. And don't let the grind get you down. This is me, boom, right into this Blue Yeti mic, wishing you all the best. Thank you for listening. Do not leave me here. Do not strain me. I'll be right out there. I'll be waiting. Come back, get me. We will. Most definitely. Absolutely. Drum roll, please. Inevitably. We're going to talk again real soon.